The gleaming towers of the International Space Commerce Center stretched toward the evening sky, their surfaces reflecting the orange sunset. Inside, the usual bustle of humans and aliens going about their business filled the corridors. This was humanity's pride, a symbol of their acceptance into the wider galactic community 5 years ago. Tom Miller worked in the engineering section, spending his days figuring out how to make alien technology compatible with human systems. He wasn't supposed to be at tonight's diplomatic reception, but his wife Anna's position as a cultural liaison officer meant they both had to attend. "Remember to smile," Anna said, adjusting Tom's tie as they stood in the elevator heading to the top floor. "These events matter." Her blue dress matched her eyes, and her blonde hair was neatly tied back. Tom just nodded, tugging at his collar. He preferred his workshop to these fancy gatherings. The reception hall buzzed with conversation in multiple languages, the universal translators working overtime to keep up. Floating light orbs cast a soft glow over the gathering, where humans mingled with various alien species. Some aliens towered over the humans, while others barely reached waist height. Ambassador Cruel entered the hall, and the crowd parted automatically. His species, the Verax, were known for their impressive physical presence. Standing 8 feet tall with iridescent scaled skin and 4 arms, Cruel moved with the confidence of someone used to being the most powerful person in any room. His ceremonial armor gleamed under the lights, each plate etched with symbols of his many victories. "They really do look like walking tanks," Tom whispered to Anna, who gave him a warning glance. "The Verax are one of the oldest spacefaring races," she whispered back. "Show respect." Tom watched as Anna moved through the crowd, doing her job of making everyone feel welcome. She had a gift for it, knowing just what to say, when to bow, when to offer the traditional greetings of various species. It was why she'd risen so quickly in the diplomatic course. The evening progressed smoothly until Ambassador Cruel noticed Anna. His upper eyes narrowed with interest as he watched her gracefully navigate between different groups. The Verax were known for their direct approach to everything, including their interests. "You there, human female," Kroll's voice boomed across the room, his translator making the words sound harsh. "Come here." Anna maintained her professional smile as she approached. "Ambassador Cruel, it's an honor to meet you." "Yes, it is," Cruel agreed, looking down at her. "You move well for a human. You will serve in my personal staff starting tomorrow." The nearby conversations stopped. Everyone knew this wasn't how things worked, but few dared to correct a Verax ambassador. "I'm flattered, Ambassador," Anna said carefully, "but I'm happy with my current position." "Thank you for the offer." Kroll's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of surprise that those who worked with Verax had learned to recognize. "You misunderstand, human. This is not an offer. This is a decision I have made." From across the room, Tom watched the exchange. He saw Anna's spine stiffen slightly, a tell she had when she was getting angry but trying to hide it. "Ambassador, that's not how our employment system works," Anna explained patiently. "I have a contract with the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Contracts can be broken," Cruel dismissed with a wave of his lower right hand. "I have decided. The matter is closed." "No, Ambassador," Anna said firmly. "The matter is not closed. I decline." The room fell silent. In 5 years of contact, no one had ever seen a Verax handle rejection well. Their species simply didn't experience it often enough to develop the social tools to deal with it. Kroll's scales flushed dark, a sign of rage. "You dare refuse me." His voice dropped to a dangerous rumble that made the glasses on nearby tables vibrate. Tom started moving before he even realized it, but he was too far away. He saw Kroll's upper right arm move in a blur, saw Anna's head snap back as the ambassador struck her, saw her fall. The sound of her hitting the floor echoed in the sudden, terrible silence, and in that moment, everything changed. The careful peace between humans and aliens, the diplomatic niceties, the pretense of equality. It all shattered like the wine glass that fell from Anna's hand. Tom stopped in his tracks, his face going completely blank. He didn't run to his wife. He didn't shout. He just stood there, watching, thinking, and planning. The reception hall erupted into chaos. Humans rushed to Anna's side while aliens backed away, creating a circle around the fallen woman and the towering Ambassador Cruel. Security personnel moved forward but stopped short. No one was quite sure how to handle an assault by a diplomat with full immunity. Blood trickled from Anna's split lip as she pushed herself up to a sitting position. Her blue dress was stained where wine had spilled across it. Two human medical staff who had been attending the reception knelt beside her, but she waved them away. "I'm fine," she said, her voice steady despite the growing bruise on her face. The entire left side of her face was beginning to swell, but her eyes remained clear and focused. Cruel looked down at her, his scales still dark with rage, but now showing patches of green. The Verac's equivalent of satisfaction. "Perhaps now you understand your place, human female. Your species has been allowed to join galactic society too quickly. You lack proper respect for your betters." The ambassador's translator broadcast his words clearly through the stunned silence. Several human diplomats were already on their communicators, presumably contacting Earth's government. The alien representatives watched with various expressions. Some seemed uncomfortable, others indifferent, and a few nodded in agreement with Cruel. Tom still hadn't moved. His feet remained planted where he'd stopped, his eyes taking in every detail. He watched how Kroll's armor shifted with each movement, noting the joints and seams. He observed how the ambassador's weight distribution changed when he moved his forearms, how his scales rippled with his emotions. "Ambassador," a senior human diplomat stepped forward, his voice carefully neutral. "This incident will require immediate discussion with your government. Diplomatic immunity does not." "Diplomatic immunity," Cruel interrupted, "means exactly what it means. I have committed no crime by your laws because I cannot commit a crime here. This is simply a lesson that needed to be taught." His upper eyes fixed on Anna again. "Perhaps next time you will show proper respect." Anna stood up slowly, refusing help from those around her. Her designer dress was ruined, her hair had come loose, but she drew herself up to her full height. Though she barely reached Kroll's chest, something in her stance made several aliens step back. "Ambassador," she said clearly, her voice carrying through the hall. "You have made 3 mistakes tonight. First, you assumed that because we are physically weaker, we are inferior. Second, you believe that violence would earn you respect." She paused, wiping blood from her lip. "And third, you struck a human in front of their mate." For the first time, Kroll's attention shifted to Tom, who still hadn't moved or spoken. The ambassador's scales flickered briefly with uncertainty as he met Tom's gaze. A Verac's elder who had been watching stepped forward. "Ambassador Cruel, perhaps it would be wise to." "To what?" Cruel snapped. "Apologize to a lesser species. They should be grateful we allow them in our presence at all." He turned back to Anna. "Your mate seems to understand his place at least. He stands there, silent, knowing he can do nothing." Several aliens nodded, their own species' experience with Verac's strength, making them certain of the outcome should any human dare to challenge one. Tom finally moved. He walked forward slowly, his steps measured, until he stood beside his wife. Without a word, he took off his jacket and draped it over Anna's shoulders. His face remained eerily calm as he pulled out a handkerchief and gently dabbed at the blood on her lip. Then he turned to face Cruel. The ambassador's scales rippled with amusement at what he clearly saw as a display of human foolishness. "Ambassador," Tom said quietly, his voice carrying in the silent hall, "I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you had a choice. Remember that you chose poorly." He smiled then, a small, cold expression that made several nearby aliens step back. "Because very soon, I'm going to teach you exactly why humans have survived on a planet that tried to kill us every day of our evolution." The reception ended shortly after, but everyone there knew this was just the beginning. The engineering section of the Space Commerce Center was unusually quiet the next morning. Word of the incident had spread quickly, and Tom's coworkers gave him a wide berth as he sat at his workstation, surrounded by holographic displays filled with Verax technical data. He hadn't slept. After taking Anna to the medical bay, where she refused to stay overnight despite the doctor's recommendations, he'd returned to his office. The bruise on Anna's face had darkened to a deep purple, and every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. "You're really not going to do anything stupid, are you?" asked Bill, his longtime work partner, approaching cautiously. "Like trying to punch an 8-foot alien made of scales and muscle." Tom didn't look up from his displays. "No," he said, flicking through more data. "I'm going to do something smart." The screens showed Verax biological data, cultural documents, and historical records. Tom had spent the night accessing every piece of public information about their species. As an engineer working on cross-species technology integration, he had high-level access to technical databases. "Their cardiovascular system," he muttered, zooming in on an anatomical diagram. 4 hearts, but they're small. Evolved on a low-gravity world. He made some notes. "They're stronger than us in bursts, but they tire quickly in Earth's gravity. That's why they wear those powered armor suits in public." Bill leaned over, looking at the displays. "That's all interesting, but what does it matter? You can't touch him. He's got diplomatic immunity." Tom finally looked up, and something in his expression made Bill step back. "Did you know," Tom said conversationally, "that the Verax have 47 different types of formal challenges in their culture, and that refusing any of them results in immediate loss of social status?" He pulled up another document. "They're obsessed with strength and dominance, but their definition of strength isn't just physical. They respect cunning too. They just don't think other species have any." "Tom," Bill said slowly, "what are you planning?" Instead of answering, Tom opened another file. "Their armor isn't just ceremonial. It's a status symbol, but it's also a necessity on Earth. Without it, they'd burn through energy too fast in our gravity. Most of them can only stay here a few hours without support." He stood up, stretching muscles stiff from sitting all night. "I'm going to challenge him," he said simply. "But I'm going to do it their way, by their rules, with their customs." A small smile crossed his face. "And then I'm going to beat him." "You're insane," Bill said flatly. "Have you seen them fight? They can lift a ground car." "They can lift it once," Tom corrected. "They can't do it repeatedly. Not here. Not in our gravity." He started gathering his notes. "Besides, I'm not going to challenge him to a simple fight. That would be stupid." He pulled up one final document, an ancient Verax text about their challenge customs. "I'm going to challenge him to something much worse. Something that will hurt his pride more than his body." A notification popped up on his screen. A message from Anna. She was back at work already, refusing to show weakness by taking time off. The message was simple. "Be careful. Be smart. But make him regret it." Tom closed his displays and headed for the door. "I need to talk to the Human Diplomatic Corps. They need to formally request a Verax cultural attaché to oversee what's coming." "What exactly is coming?" Bill called after him. Tom paused at the door. "Education," he said quietly. "I'm going to educate one arrogant alien about why you don't underestimate humans, why every predator that ever hunted us went extinct, why every disaster that struck our planet failed to wipe us out." His voice hardened. "And why you never, ever hurt someone's wife in front of them." As he walked out, his coworkers watched him go in silence. They'd never seen this side of the usually quiet engineer. But then again, they'd never seen what happened when someone pushed a human too far. The clock was ticking, and Tom had preparation to do. Ambassador Krull's education was about to begin. The Verax embassy loomed over the surrounding buildings, its architecture all sharp angles and gleaming metal. Tom stood at its base, dressed in formal attire, holding a data tablet containing ancient Verax challenge protocols. Behind him stood 2 human diplomats and the hastily summoned Verax cultural attaché, an older alien named Rix, who seemed far more thoughtful than his aggressive younger counterparts. "You understand," Rix said slowly, his scales shifting to a contemplative blue-green, "that once issued, a formal challenge cannot be withdrawn." "I understand," Tom replied, his voice steady. The group was escorted inside by guards whose armor made them look even more massive than normal Verax. The embassy's interior was kept at their homeworld's gravity, about 60% of Earth's. Tom felt oddly light as they walked to the main hall. Ambassador Cruel was waiting, lounging on a raised platform. His scales showed amusement when he saw Tom. "The little human mate has come to beg forgiveness for his female's disrespect." "No," Tom said clearly. "I've come to issue a formal challenge under the Ancient Rights of Dominance Dispute, Section 47, Paragraph 3. The ambassador's scales shifted rapidly through several colors. The guards straightened. Even Rix seemed surprised. "You dare?" Cruel stood, towering over them. "You would invoke our ancient laws." "I do dare," Tom replied. "Unless you're afraid to accept a challenge from a lesser species." The ambassador's scales darkened with rage, but before he could speak, Rick stepped forward. "The challenge has been properly issued. By our laws, you must either accept or forfeit your position and honor." Kroll's upper fists clenched. "What is the challenge then, tiny human?" "Physical combat. You would die in seconds." Tom smiled. "No. I challenge you to the trial of sustained dominance. 3 tests, 1 of mind, 1 of endurance, and 1 of strength, all to be completed in Earth's natural gravity, without support systems." A murmur ran through the watching Verax. This particular challenge was rarely used anymore. It was considered too demanding even for their own people. "The winner," Tom continued, "gains the right to demand one thing from the loser, anything short of their life. The loser must comply or face eternal shame and exile from their position." Kroll's scales had taken on a slightly paler shade, the Verax equivalent of a nervous sweat. Everyone there knew what he was thinking. In Earth's gravity, without his powered armor, even his superior strength would fade quickly. "You have clearly studied our ways," Cruel said finally, "but you cannot win. I accept your challenge, human. When I succeed, I will demand your mate's servitude as my prize." Tom's face hardened for just a moment before smoothing out again. "And when I win, Ambassador, you will learn the cost of striking the human's mate." Rick stepped forward again, his translator broadcasting in both languages. "The challenge is accepted. By our laws, it must be completed within 3 days. The tests will be: first, a contest of strategic thinking using the grid of minds. Second, a test of endurance in Earth's gravity. Third, a final trial of strength." The ambassador laughed, his scales returning to their normal color. "The human has sealed his own doom. Let it be tomorrow, at midday, in your human arena. Let all see how foolish humans are." Tom nodded once and turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "did you know that humans evolved as persistence hunters? We would chase prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. Some tribes still hunt that way." He smiled. "I look forward to tomorrow." As they left the embassy, one of the human diplomats whispered, "Do you really think you can win?" Tom didn't answer immediately. He looked up at the sky, feeling Earth's familiar gravity settle back onto his shoulders, a weight he'd lived with all his life, a weight that felt like home. "The Verax think they're superior because they're stronger," he said finally. "But they never learned the lesson Earth taught us millions of years ago." His smile turned predatory. "It's not the strongest who survive. It's those who can endure." Tomorrow would prove who could endure more, the powerful alien who relied on technology to walk on Earth, or the human who had evolved to thrive there. The night before the challenge, Tom sat in his workshop, surrounded by data displays and testing equipment. Anna sat nearby, holding an ice pack to her still bruised face, watching him work. The grid of minds is their version of chess, Tom explained, manipulating a holographic model. But it's played in 3 dimensions, and the pieces can combine or split apart. His fingers moved through the display, testing different combinations. They think humans can't grasp its complexity. But you found something? Anna asked, watching the patterns form and dissolve. Tom nodded. They rely too much on power moves. Big, dramatic combinations, but they overlook small, subtle patterns. He highlighted a sequence, just like they overlook smaller species. In the corner of the workshop, a gravity simulator hummed. Tom had spent hours in it, adjusting to rapid changes between Earth and Verax gravity. His muscles ached from the training, but he'd discovered something crucial. Their bodies aren't built for quick transitions, he said, pulling up biological data. When they go from their gravity to ours, it takes them almost a minute to adjust. That's why they wear the powered armor. Anna stood up and walked to the simulator's controls. And the final test, the strength portion. Tom's face grew serious. That's where it gets interesting. He pulled up a new display showing energy consumption rates. In their gravity, they're incredibly strong. But here, they have to burn massive amounts of energy just to move. Without their armor, they tire quickly. He started packing away his equipment, each item carefully stored. I've got the patterns memorized for the grid. I've trained my body to handle the gravity shifts. Now I just need to last long enough in the strength test. You're going to let him tire himself out, Anna said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Exactly. Tom checked the time. 6 hours until the challenge. They're so convinced of their superiority, they never bothered to study how humans actually work. We're not the strongest, but we can keep going long after stronger animals have collapsed. A message chimed on his computer. More Verax had arrived to witness the challenge. Word had spread quickly through their community. None of them wanted to miss seeing the human get humiliated. They're all coming to watch you fail, Anna said softly. Tom walked over and gently touched her bruised cheek. No, he said quietly. They're coming to learn a lesson about humans, about why we survived every predator, every disaster, every challenge our world threw at us. His voice hardened. And about why you don't hurt one of us and expect to get away with it. He spent the next few hours in final preparations, checking his calculations one last time, running through grid patterns in his head, doing light exercises to stay loose without tiring himself. Just before dawn, Bill arrived with breakfast. The arena's already filling up, he reported. Half the alien diplomatic corps is there. Everyone wants to see this. Tom ate methodically, fueling his body for what was coming. Good, he said between bites. The more who watch, the better the lesson. The Verax are taking bets, Bill added, offering ridiculous odds against you. Anna smiled for the first time since the incident. Did you place a bet? Everything I could afford, Bill grinned, on Tom. As the sun rose, Tom changed into the simple athletic gear he'd chosen for the challenge. No powered armor, no support systems, just human ingenuity and endurance against Verax strength and pride. Ready? Anna asked, standing at the door. Tom nodded, double-checking his equipment one last time. Remember what you always say about diplomatic relations. Sometimes the best way to earn respect is to show you won't accept disrespect, she quoted herself. Exactly. Tom squared his shoulders. Time to teach one arrogant alien that lesson. They headed for the arena, where history waited to be made. Today, the galaxy would learn why humans had earned their place among the stars, not through strength alone, but through the relentless determination that had defined their species since they first stood upright on the African plains. The lesson was about to begin. The arena buzzed with excitement. Aliens of various species filled the viewing galleries, their translators creating a mix of electronic murmurs. In the center, 2 platforms stood ready, one for each competitor. Ambassador Krul arrived first, his scales gleaming with confidence. He wore only the minimum ceremonial armor, clearly planning to demonstrate his natural superiority. When Tom walked in wearing simple athletic gear, laughter rippled through the Verac section of the crowd. Rix, the cultural attaché, stepped forward to begin the proceedings. The first trial is the grid of minds. Begin. The holographic grid materialized between them, pieces floating in three-dimensional space. Krul moved first, his pieces slamming forward in an aggressive pattern. Tom responded with small, precise movements that seemed random to the observers. Poor human, Krul laughed, already confused by the complexity. Tom didn't respond. His pieces continued their apparently meaningless dance across the grid. Then, suddenly, patterns emerged. Small groups of pieces linked together, creating chains of influence that spread through the grid like a web. Krul's scales shifted to alarm as he realized what was happening. Every powerful move he made was absorbed by Tom's network of smaller pieces. After 15 minutes, the ambassador found himself trapped. His mighty pieces were pinned down by a web of lesser ones. "Checkmate," Tom said quietly. "First trial to me." The Verac section fell silent. Krul's scales darkened with rage. "The second trial," Rix announced, "endurance in Earth gravity." The gravity controls activated. While Tom stood steady, Krul immediately staggered as his support systems deactivated. The challenge was simple: remain standing while performing basic physical tasks. Minutes ticked by. Krul's breathing grew heavy, his movements becoming labored. Tom maintained a steady pace, conserving energy, watching the ambassador's struggles increase. "How?" Krul gasped after 20 minutes. "You should be exhausted." "This is our gravity," Tom replied calmly. "We were born in it, shaped by it. You rely on technology to handle it. We just call it home." After 30 minutes, Krul collapsed to one knee. The second trial was over. The final trial, Rix declared: strength. This was what the Veracs had been waiting for. Even tired, their ambassador was far stronger than any human. The test was simple: move increasingly heavy objects from one point to another. Krul went first, his forearms straining but successfully lifting the first weight. Tom matched him, moving slower but steadily. The weights increased. The ambassador's movements grew more labored. Without his powered armor, Earth's gravity was draining his strength rapidly. Still, he lifted each weight, determined to prove his superiority. Tom kept pace, his human muscles trembling but enduring. He had trained for this, understood his limits perfectly. More importantly, he understood his opponent's limits. The final weight arrived. Krul grabbed it, his scales almost black with effort. He lifted and stopped. His arms shook, his breathing came in gasps. The weight crashed down. Tom stepped forward. The crowd leaned in. Somehow, impossibly, he lifted. His muscles screamed, but he held steady. One step, another. The weight touched down on the target. Silence filled the arena. "The trial is complete," Rix announced, his scales showing astonishment. "The human, Tom, is victor." Krul lay on the ground, his mighty form heaving with exhaustion. "Impossible," he gasped. Tom stood over him, still breathing hard but standing straight. "No, just human. We're not the strongest, fastest, or biggest, but we never stop. We never give up. And we never forget when someone hurts one of our own." He looked up at the shocked alien crowd. "My prize is simple. You will apologize to my wife, resign your position, and return to your homeworld. And you will tell everyone why. Because you made the mistake of thinking humans were weak." The ambassador's scales paled in humiliation as he was helped up by his staff. Tom turned away, walking toward where Anna waited, smiling proudly. Behind him, he heard the murmurs of the alien crowd, watching history being rewritten. Today, they had learned why humans had survived everything their harsh world had thrown at them. Not through superior strength, but through something far more powerful, the relentless determination to never, ever give up. The lesson had been taught. 1 week after the challenge, the Space Commerce Center buzzed with a different kind of energy. Aliens no longer towered over humans in the corridors. They stepped aside, offering respectful nods. The story had spread through the galactic community like wildfire. A human engineer had defeated a Verax ambassador using their own customs against them. Tom sat in his workshop, making adjustments to an alien power coupling, when Rix entered. The older Verax's scales showed a calm blue-green color. "The official report has been filed with both our governments," Rix said. "Ambassador Cruel has resigned and returned home, but that is not why I came." Tom set down his tools and waited. "In all our years of space travel," Rix continued, "we Verax believed physical strength was the measure of a species. We were wrong." His scales shifted to a thoughtful purple. "You could have chosen simple revenge. Instead, you used our customs, learned our ways, and won fairly. This is true strength." In the main atrium, Anna was conducting her usual diplomatic duties. The bruise on her face had faded, but the respect in the eyes of the aliens around her was new. Where before they had tolerated human presence, now they sought human insight. "Your mate has changed how we see humans," Rix said. "Many of my people argued that accepting humans into the galactic community was premature. Now they wonder if perhaps we were the ones who needed to learn." Tom stood, checking a reading on his tablet. "We didn't survive on Earth by being the strongest," he said. "We survived by adapting, learning, and never giving up. Every predator that hunted us, every disaster that struck us, they all taught us something." "And what did we teach you?" Rix asked. "That the galaxy still has lessons to learn about humanity," Tom replied, "and that we're ready to teach them." Later that day, a formal announcement echoed through the building. The Galactic Council had approved new protocols for interspecies interactions, with harsh penalties for physical aggression against any sentient being. The humans hadn't just won respect. They'd changed the rules. Bill found Tom in the cafeteria, grinning as he dropped a credit chip on the table. "My winnings from the betting pool," he explained. "The odds were 500 to 1 against you. I'm rich." Tom pushed the chip back. "Donated to the Interspecies Cultural Education Program," he said. "Let's help make sure nothing like this happens again." As the day ended, Tom and Anna walked home through the city streets. Above them, ships from a dozen alien worlds traced lights across the darkening sky. A group of young Verax diplomats passed them, their scales shifting to respectful gold as they bowed slightly. "Things really have changed," Anna mused. "Yesterday, a Centaurian asked me to teach them about human endurance techniques. They want to understand how we think." Tom squeezed her hand. "They're learning what Earth taught us long ago. That true strength isn't just about muscle or size. It's about determination, adaptation, and wisdom." At home, they found a package waiting. Inside was a formal document from the Verax High Council, acknowledging humanity as equals in the galactic community. With it was a note from Rix. "Your victory wasn't just over one ambassador. You won a victory over prejudice itself. Our young ones will study this day in their history lessons." Anna placed the document carefully on their wall, next to their other achievements. "Not bad for a lesser species," she smiled. Tom watched the alien ships crossing the night sky through their window. Somewhere out there, throughout the galaxy, the story was spreading. Not just about how one human had defeated a Verax, but about why humans had earned their place among the stars. They had proved that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their muscles or their technology, but in their unbreakable spirit, in their ability to face challenges, learn from them, and emerge stronger. "Ready for tomorrow?" Anna asked. "I heard the Arcturian ambassador wants to discuss some new trade protocols." Tom nodded, smiling. "Always ready. After all, there's still so much we can learn from each other." And in the years that followed, that's exactly what happened. The galaxy learned to respect humans not for their strength alone, but for their resilience.